There's a detective working your case right now, and they've been gathering evidence for longer than you realize. Not the kind you hire with money or find in some downtown office with frosted glass doors and flickering neon signs. This detective works for something bigger, something ancient and relentless, the universe itself. And they just compiled a file so thick with proof, so heavy with truth, that when you finally see what's inside, everything you thought you knew about timing, about destiny, about the person meant to find you, will shatter and rebuild itself in the same breath. You felt it, haven't you? That strange pull in your chest when you wake at 3 a.m, that inexplicable knowing that someone out there is thinking about you, reaching for you across invisible distances, yet somehow never arriving. You've seen the signs scatter like breadcrumbs through your days, the repeated numbers that follow you everywhere, the songs that play exactly when you need to hear them, the dreams so vivid they leave you breathless and confused when morning light floods your room. These aren't coincidences. They're evidence, documentation. The universe has been watching, recording, building a case, and now the detective has arrived to show you something that will change everything. Your soulmate has been wasting time, not just hours or days, but years of sacred opportunity, moments that were perfectly aligned and then deliberately missed, chances that the cosmos orchestrated with such precision only to watch them slip away into the void of hesitation and fear. The detective doesn't come with judgment, but with facts. Cold, clear, undeniable facts about procrastination dressed up as patience, about fear disguised as wisdom, about someone who knows exactly who you are to them, but has been choosing the comfort of the familiar over the terror of the magnificent. And here's what makes this evidence so shocking. It's not just about them stalling or being unprepared. It's about how every single delay has been documented, how every moment they chose to scroll through their phone instead of following that inexplicable urge to walk into that coffee shop where you were sitting, how every time they almost sent that message and then deleted it, how every relationship they forced themselves into trying to forget what their soul already knew. All of it has been recorded in the cosmic archives. Take a breath right now. Let that sink into your bones. If you feel a tremor of recognition moving through your body, if something ancient inside you is nodding slowly in acknowledgement, then you're ready for what comes next. The investigation has only just begun, and what the detective is about to reveal will explain every frustration, every lonely night, every moment you question whether this person even exists. The detective opens a file, and the first thing you see is a timeline, not of what happened, but of what didn't. Phantom moments, ghost opportunities, a collection of almost that never became reality because someone chose safety over surrender. There was that day 3 years ago when your paths were supposed to cross at that bookstore, but they decided at the last minute they were too tired, too busy, that they'd go tomorrow instead. Tomorrow came, and you were gone. There was that party 6 months later where a mutual friend almost introduced you, but they left early because they felt anxious in crowds, never knowing that the cure for that very anxiety was standing 20 feet away, laughing at someone else's joke while their soul was screaming your name. The evidence is staggering. Deleted drafts of messages they wrote to you before you even met. Yes, you read that right. Messages their intuition guided them to write, addressed to an unknown future. Confessions typed out at 2 a.m, and then erased in the harsh light of dawn because logic convinced them they were being crazy. But they weren't crazy. They were connected. And every time they dismissed that connection as fantasy, they added another page to this file the detective now holds. You want to know what else is in here? Screenshots of their searches for him. How do you know when you've met your soulmate? Signs the universe is trying to tell you something. Why do I feel incomplete? Evidence of their knowing. Proof that they've been aware of your existence in the energetic realm, even while denying it in the physical. Every relationship they forced. Every person they tried to convince themselves could be you. Every morning they woke up next to someone else and felt the rawness of it settle like stones in their stomach. Documented. Cataloged. Witnessed by forces that don't forget and don't forgive wasted divinity. And here's what breaks your heart and heals it simultaneously. They've been suffering too. This isn't a story of someone carelessly throwing away your connection while living their best life. This is evidence of someone drowning slowly in the absence of something they can't name. Someone who has cried themselves to sleep more times than you know. Someone who stares at the moon on certain nights and feels you so strongly they have to grip the windowsill to stay grounded. The detective shows you their journal entries, their prayers, their desperate conversations with the sky. Your soulmate isn't cruel or indifferent. They're terrified. And fear, as the universe knows too well, is the greatest thief of time, the most efficient destroyer of destiny. If your hands are shaking as you read this, if you feel tears threatening to spill or a rage building in your chest at all the time that's been lost, stay with me. Because what comes next will help you understand why this happened, and more importantly, what it means for what happens now. The detective's voice drops lower now, becomes almost gentle, because this next part of the evidence is harder to witness. It's the cost analysis. The universe keeps impeccable books, and every choice has a price. Every delay has compound interest. What your soulmate's fear has cost isn't just measured in lonely nights or misconnections. It's measured in entire alternate versions of your lives that could have been unfolding right now. There's a timeline where you met 4 years ago, where you've already moved to the awkward first stages of vulnerability, and are now deep in the kind of love that other people write songs about. There's a version of reality where your children already exist, where you're reading bedtime stories to little souls who carry both your lights inside them. There's a universe where the business you would have built together is already thriving, where the home you would have created is already filled with laughter and music, and the kind of peace that only comes when two people stop fighting their destiny and finally surrender to it. But that's not this universe. Not yet, because fear is expensive, and your soulmate has been paying in moments that can never be recovered. The detective shows you something that makes your chest hurt. They've been paying too. Every bad relationship they settled for, every morning they woke up feeling empty, every achievement that fell hollow, because the one person who would truly understand wasn't there to celebrate with them. That was them paying the bill for their hesitation. There were nights they almost called out to you energetically, almost let their heart override their head and just trusted the pull. But then logic stepped in with its reasonable objections, its practical concerns, its thousand tiny reasons why now wasn't the right time. And every single time they listened to that voice, instead of the one that knew better, they signed another check to the bank of regret. The universe has records of their sleepless nights, their unexplained sadness on beautiful days, their inability to feel fully present in their own life, because part of them has always been reaching for you across whatever distance keeps you separate. You need to understand this. The time they wasted wasn't spent in joy or satisfaction. It was spent in a particular kind of suffering that comes from denying what your soul knows to be true. They've been haunted by your absence without understanding why the space next to them always feels wrong, why every connection feels like a placeholder, why they catch themselves daydreaming about someone they can't quite picture but somehow completely know. And the cost keeps accumulating. The interest keeps compounding, because the universe doesn't pause the clock just because someone's too afraid to read the signs. Feel that in your body right now. Not anger at them, but compassion for how much this delay has cost you both. But here's where the detective's expression changes, where the energy in the room shifts from documentation to urgency. The universe has been patient, has orchestrated and reorchestrated opportunities with the kind of grace that only infinite intelligence possesses. But even divine timing has its boundaries. The window is closing, not because the universe is cruel or arbitrary, but because free will demands consequences. And at some point, the cosmic machinery has to move forward with or without those who refuse to step into their destined positions. The signs have been escalating. Your soulmate is experiencing what the universe calls a final intensification, a period where the gentle nudges become earthquakes, where the subtle whispers become sirens, where every single day brings some new impossible coincidence designed to shake them awake. They're seeing your name everywhere now, or variations of it. They're dreaming of you with a clarity that terrifies them. They're experiencing physical sensations, a pull in their chest, a warmth that floods them at random moments, a certainty that comes and goes like radio signals from another dimension. The universe is pulling out all the stops because this is it. This is a final window. The detective shows you the cosmic calendar, and there's a date circled in gold light, a convergence point that's approaching faster than either of you realizes. After this moment passes, the current configuration dissolves. Not forever, but for what might as well be forever in human terms. Years, lifetimes. The paths that are currently running parallel will diverge completely. And bringing them back together will require such catastrophic intervention that both of you might not survive it intact. This isn't meant to scare you, but to wake you up to the stakes of what's unfolding. Your soulmate is receiving their own version of this wake-up call right now, in whatever form their consciousness can handle. Maybe it's through a song that keeps playing that sounds like it was written about you. Maybe it's through a stranger who says something that cuts through all their defenses. Maybe it's through a loss so profound that it finally breaks them open enough to let the truth in. The universe doesn't play favorites, but it does play for keeps, and right now it's playing its final hand. Here's what you need to know. This isn't just about them anymore. The detective is here for you too, because there's something you're supposed to be doing during this final window. Some preparation or shift or release that you haven't completed yet. The universe has been waiting for both of you to reach certain frequencies, certain levels of readiness. And while you've been focused on their delays, there might be something you've been avoiding too. Can you feel that? That slight discomfort that just moved through you? That's recognition. That's your soul acknowledging a truth your mind hasn't wanted to face. The detective closes the file slowly, deliberately, and looks at you with eyes that seem to contain entire galaxies. There's one more piece of evidence, they say, but this one isn't about your soulmate. This one is about you. And suddenly the entire investigation flips, and you realize you haven't just been reading a case file. You've been sitting in an interrogation room this whole time. What if I told you that while your soulmate has been stalling and hesitating, you've been doing something too? Not the same thing, perhaps, but something equally powerful in its ability to maintain the distance between you. Maybe you've been holding on to a vibration of victimhood, a story about being abandoned or not chosen that actually keeps you unavailable on an energetic level. Maybe you've been so focused on their delays that you haven't noticed your own resistance to the magnitude of what this connection will demand from you. Because here's what a detective knows that you're just beginning to suspect. Meeting your soulmate isn't just about finally getting what you've been waiting for. It's about becoming someone you've never been. It's about dying to every limited version of yourself and being reborn in a love so vast it will terrify you as much as it completes you. Are you ready for that? Really ready? Not the fantasy version where everything is perfect and easy, but a real version where you have to face every wound, every fear, every carefully constructed wall you've built around your heart. The detective leans forward, and their voice becomes almost a whisper. The reason the universe has allowed this delay, has permitted all this wasted time, is because both of you needed it. You needed to become who you have to be to sustain what's coming. Your soulmate needed to exhaust every other option until surrender became the only choice left. And now you're both standing at the edge of the final moment, the ultimate decision point. And what happens next depends on something neither of you can control, but both of you must choose. The file contains one last page, but the detective won't let you see it yet. That page is about what happens when you finally meet, about the first moment your eyes lock and your souls recognize each other, about what you'll both have to sacrifice and what you'll both receive in return. But you're not ready for that information yet. There's something you have to do first, something you have to release or claim or become before that final page can be revealed. And that truth, that missing piece that will unlock everything, that secret about your own role in this cosmic delay, that's what the next message will contain. If you can handle it, if you're brave enough to look. Are you? The detective stands, preparing to leave. But before they disappear, they pause at the door and look back at you one final time. Tomorrow, they say, I'll show you the page about the first touch, but only if you're ready to admit what you've been hiding from yourself. And then they're gone, leaving you alone with a truth that's just beginning to surface.